Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Simply Walk the Talk. I am your host, JoshuaJHolland, and today's episode is going to be a little different because I wanted to give an intro to accompany the video that I will play after my intro here. And this video is essentially a diagnostic telehealth call with Dr. Green of Lifeforce. And I wanted to kind of show you guys the best ways to understand what's happening within our own bodies. And this Lifeforce membership is really amazing because not only do they do a blood test where they come to your home, they do a blood test, a blood draw, and then you get all this information. There's a lot of information that comes with it, which is very different than some of the other programs I've done before. But you also get access to a medical professional, a doctor, to go over all of those results. And while we don't necessarily go over every single marker, we do go over some of the most highlighted or some of the most important markers for me to focus on. And something that's pretty shocking about this video that you're going to see is I learned just how close I am to being pre-diabetic. And it was one of those kind of like aha moments where the light bulb comes on and I'm like, oh, okay. So despite my being healthy, staying fit, trying to eat as best I can while on tour and things like that, there's still some things that need to be worked on. And so what I figured out is that obviously I'm not getting the best sleep that I can when I'm on tour. I'm eating out of restaurants and I'm eating airplane food and things like that. But now that I'm back, I have the supplements and the medications that were prescribed to me based on the results from this diagnostic test. And so that's what you're going to hear. I feel like this was an opportunity for me to really become vulnerable and show you what's happening within myself so that you have an opportunity to see, oh, you know what? Maybe I should be doing something like Lifeforce to figure out exactly what supplements I need, exactly what medications I might need, and also a sense of a lifestyle that might help you to optimize and maximize your results. So if you're curious about ways that you can be involved with Lifeforce, definitely hit me up or refer to the show notes because I'll try to put everything I can into the show notes here. But this is an opportunity to learn exactly what I do as a health coach and why I might suggest this to people that I work with. And there's going to be a number of other things that I'll suggest, but this is it. This is one of the key foundational things I'm going to be using for my health coaching program, and I want to offer that to you. So here's my telehealth call with Dr. Green of Lifeforce. Enjoy.
So good morning. I'm Dr. Green, one of the Lifeforce physicians. I'm going to be helping go through your lab data and your async report just to kind of understand what we're working with. And then also to help provide a plan for you that we can achieve over the next few months. Because one of the things that we've appreciated is with this diagnostic kit, we get a lot of information. And sometimes it can be overwhelming, especially if you're not necessarily knowledgeable about everything that we're doing. You may think you know, and then when you get the report, it's like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of stuff going on here. So one of the things that we hope to do on this call is to find the top priorities that you'd like to make progress on, so that we can make tangible steps towards achieving those goals, appreciating that health and wellness, it's a lifelong journey, right? If it was
Right.
easy to fix all of our problems within a couple months, then everyone would have done it 100 years ago. And the truth of the matter is, life is relatively simple, but we also make it more complex than it needs to be. So we don't want to add layers of complexity on, in terms of, all right, this is all the stuff that we need to fix, these are all the supplements, and set you up for failure versus success. Because ultimately, we want to make sure that whatever we give to you, whatever recommendations, they can be integrated into your daily lifestyle, so that we can start chipping away, ultimately leading you to a high quality of life, thriving versus just surviving. And also appreciate that, we're going to take some steps forward, we may take some steps back. How do we continue to make positive progress, so that we can get you decades worth of higher quality living, versus just getting your blood tested and being like, that was cool, I took a bunch of supplements, I don't really know if they worked or not. This is a process, this is a partnership. So hopefully that's what we can get started today. So again, as I mentioned, I'm Dr. Green, one of the Lifeforce physicians. Can you just confirm your date of birth for me before we proceed, so I know that I am talking to the right Josh Holland?
Yes, June 12th, 1981.
Beautiful. All right. And where are you calling in from, sir?
So I'm normally based in New York, in Harlem,
Nice.
but I am on tour currently, and I am
Nice.
in San Francisco as we speak, in a hotel.
Amazing. Beautiful. Nice
Yeah.
looking hotel.
Thanks.
So we'll go through the diagnostic kit, but if you, based on your intake and clinical assessment, you seem like you're pretty healthy. So instead of just looking at letters on a page, I'd love to hear from you. Like, what are the things that you'd really like to focus on for the next few months, like the high priority areas?
So one of the things that I've been curious about throughout the last decade or so is just the best ways to help people optimize their health and wellness. And I know that's a very broad goal, but it's trying to improve all the markers that can be improved upon by focusing on sleep and nutrition. Obviously, the aesthetics, the weight, and the body composition and things like that, it's important, but I always look at that as like a byproduct of doing all the right things anyway.
Sure.
So I would be lying if I didn't say that I want to be more lean or whatever, perform better. But I think it ultimately starts with making sure that my inflammation is on track, or moderated, regulated. I want to make sure that my stress is good. And I want to be able to make sure that I'm also assimilating all of the products, the supplements that I do take. I want to make sure that it's my gut health is really good, because I know it's really key. So I know it's a lot of things in there, but it's kind of this general overview of just health optimization.
Yeah. Beautiful. Amazing. So if you've looked at your async report, we kind of break down things into what we think are the high priority areas for you to focus on. So when you go through that, the physicians that assimilate the data will break down all of your biometrics and kind of show you where we're doing well and where we need to make some improvements. So, and we list them kind of in order of what we think is the most important. So for you and your async report, if you take a look at it, reducing, risk factors for cardiovascular disease, that's, number one. Metabolic condition, number two. So basically your risk for diabetes and other lifestyle associated illnesses, which is ultimately, truthfully, lifestyle associated illness is probably the top 8 or 9 causes of morbidity and mortality in the US. And then the final part is optimizing hormone balance. So I'll kind of go through based on what I see and what Dr. Rick talked to you about, what I think is going to be the most important. So if you want to look at your async report, you can pull that up right now. The number one
Yeah.
thing for you that I think we need to pay attention to, cardiovascular health is certainly important, but I think the biggest thing for you right now is the metabolic condition component. So if you look at your lab data or your report, one of the metrics we look at is called hemoglobin A1C. So hemoglobin A1C kind of explains and tells us what has your blood sugar on average been over the last few months. So we can use that to appreciate stress, diet, movement, because movement helps us control blood sugar. It improves our insulin sensitivity. It's also a metric for diabetes risk. So, based on how your blood sugar is being controlled, how sensitive your body is to insulin, we have a metric there that can indicate, all right, are we doing well? Are we pre-diabetic? Are we type 2 diabetic? Or diabetic in general. So the reason I bring this up is I think this is the number one thing. If you want to reduce your risk for metabolic or chronic disease, you want to increase your health span. One of the things that we want to do is decrease the amount of inflammation that we're exposing ourselves to. And the easiest way to do that is to control blood sugar, maintain insulin sensitivity. So again, lifestyle, diet, and things like that. So your hemoglobin A1C metric is 5.8. So 5.8, technically, by strict definition, 5.7 is kind of the cutoff for what would be considered pre-diabetic, right? So I don't know if this has ever been measured with you before or you've ever taken a look at it, but 5.8 is definitely something where we're in an area where it could go one of two ways. Like if we don't change something about what we're doing, whether it's our diet, quality of food, quantity of food, exercise regimen, things like that, we may start to shift closer towards the type 2 diabetes range, which ultimately is going to increase your risk for many chronic diseases and probably going to truncate not only the quality, but also the duration of your life. So has this ever been brought up in the past for you?
It has, but never to the point where it was to be worried about
Okay.
until now, which is really
Yeah.
interesting. And I
Yeah.
also think I'm glad we're going over this because I know a big part of this could be, and probably it makes sense to me at least, the fact that I'm on tour and I'm in probably one of the most stressful times of my life,
Sure.
traveling, not getting quality sleep. Normally I'm getting to bed by 10:30 on most nights and waking up without an alarm by 6 a.m. Whereas, I'm on tour. Some nights I don't get to bed till 3 a.m. Which means,
Yeah.
it's a bit tricky. But anyway, this is really helpful.
Yeah. So again, like the next question is, what can we do about this? Right. So
Right.
what you put into your body, that's something you're doing 3 to 5 times a day. Right. So in terms of quality and quantity, that's going to be one of the first areas that we have to pay attention to is what type of food and how much are you eating. And that's something where you can be honest with yourself, and then I can make a note to our performance guides, which will follow up with you and schedule some time so that they can work on tangible life practices and changes that they can introduce, whether it's charting your food, tracking it, working on accountability, things like that. So that's something that we can do after this session. But just be honest with yourself in terms of, okay, like food is going to be something that we're consuming every single day. Am I consuming the highest quality of food? Am I getting a lot of fiber? You spoke about gut health. We know fiber is probably the most important thing to help maintain a healthy gut biome or microbiome, excuse me. If you're on tour, what can we do to help making sure we're getting high quality of food when we're eating and not just eating what's available? So what's available after midnight or 1 a.m. And that's going to be, making some conscientious decisions in terms of like, what do I need to do while I'm on the road, while I'm experiencing stress, stress, whether that's circadian disruption, like you said, going to bed super late some nights, going to bed, earlier some nights. We know that food's going to be super helpful, especially if we can't control those other things in our life, travel, sleep, and things like that. So, I personally am, I think supplements are very helpful when used correctly, but the most common things that we have to pay attention to are what can we do on a daily basis, and the quality of food that you're putting into your body is going to be super important. So, first things first, working with our team, working with your team on setting a plan in terms of saying, hey, I'm going to make sure I'm not doing too many simple sugars, simple carbs, white bread, white rice, white pasta, soda, alcohol, anything that's, a high glycemic index, and choose things that have more fiber, that are complex carbs, healthy proteins, healthy fats. Not only will they help provide satiety to keep you, not hungry all the time, but it's also going to minimize like blood sugar spikes that may contribute to, what we've experienced with this elevated metric of hemoglobin A1C. So that's the first part. Does that make sense for you?
Beautifully put. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So the second part is supplementation, and that's where we can, definitely help you. So a couple things that I think would be reasonable for you. One, we have a supplement called Peak NMN. NMN is a NAD coenzyme that helps not only your cells become more energetically efficient by increasing the amount of NAD that they're utilizing, and NAD is an energy factor in the mitochondria of all cells. It decreases over time, and especially decreases as we expose ourselves to more stress and our cells have to repair and fix damage that we introduce to our system. But it's also been known to improve insulin sensitivity. And when so insulin binds a glucose molecule, it shuttles it into a cell to provide energy. In 2022, we don't really have to do anything during the day, and we constantly feed ourselves. So our cells are like, hey, we've got enough energy in here. We don't need any more. And so the more sugar we expose ourselves to, diet, stress, and otherwise, our body's sensitivity to insulin goes down because we have plenty of energy stored. And then we have to produce more insulin. Insulin is also, as I mentioned, an energy storage hormone, and that can cause us to store fat, as well as reflect in terms of potential risk for inflammation and metabolic disease, like we see with this hemoglobin A1C metric. So the more sensitive we can be to insulin, the better we can control our blood sugar, and ultimately our risk for diabetes and other metabolic diseases goes down. So the things that can help with improving insulin sensitivity, as I mentioned, and you mentioned, making sure we're exercising, getting good sleep, drinking enough water, but also supplements like an NMN can help increase our body's natural sensitivity to insulin, thus allowing us to better control our blood sugar, reducing our risk for diabetes and other metabolic diseases, and also then decreasing that hemoglobin A1C metric. So the hemoglobin A1C is just an indicator, right? So that's just telling us how we're doing. What we really want to do is control our blood sugar better, maintain healthy insulin sensitivity, because ultimately, if we don't, those things contribute to, I should say, inflammation. And at the end of the day, if you take nothing away from this conversation, if you want to live a long and healthy life, we want to minimize the amount of unnecessary inflammation we expose ourselves to. And, controlling blood sugar is the easiest and most simple one to modulate. So Peak NMN would be a reasonable supplement for you.
And I have that pulled up for people that are only listening to this. I have this pulled up. So when, Dr. Green and I kind of started this whole thing, I shared my screen and I shared my results, and I have it up still. So anytime he brings up something, what I'm doing is just kind of going in and showing the different things he's talking about. So right now I'm on the page that suggests the supplement he's talking about, Peak NMN by Lifeforce, and it's up here. And I'll just kind of keep going back and forth. So if you're only listening, make sure and go to the video, because this is really important to kind of see everything he's talking about.
Thank you. And then the other part is going to be metformin. So metformin is a prescription medication. It's been used for about 60 plus years to help with individuals who are kind of borderline insulin insensitive, pre-diabetic, diabetic, however you want to classify them. And it's very helpful in terms of improving insulin sensitivity, thus decreasing blood sugar, helping us control it better. But also we found in some studies that populations that take metformin tend to have an increased potential for longevity. And I mean, the mechanism is probably because if we keep our blood sugar better controlled, reducing the amount of inflammation that we expose ourselves to, we should live a long and healthier life. So, for you, I think either way, we'll find some benefit. If you wanted to try the peak NMN, just based on your lifestyle right now, and then focus on the quality of food you're consuming, I don't think it's unreasonable in terms of, more proteins, healthy fats, higher quality complex carbohydrates, a lot of fiber in all of your meals, minimizing, processed foods, sweets, white bread, white rice, white pasta. Alcohol is a big one. I'm not sure if you
No.
drink, good, perfect. But I personally want to provide something that you can stick with and that's not overwhelming for you. So if it's, peak NMN, we can start with a low dose, 1 capsule a day, obviously focusing on what you're putting into your mouth. I call it hand to mouth disease. If you can make sure that's a high, which is a lot of Americans suffer with, unfortunately. If you can control the quality of the food that you're putting into your body, that will be super helpful. And then if you wanted to try metformin, I think that's totally reasonable. Ultimately, these are things that we don't necessarily want you to do forever. We'd love for you to get into a good space and allow your body to, and your lifestyle decisions help you maintain a healthy hemoglobin A1C, healthy level of insulin sensitivity. So I don't think it's unreasonable to try the peak NMN plus or minus the metformin. And what we typically do is, start you on the process and then check again in 3 months just to see how we've done. And if we need to titrate things one way or the other, or discontinue if we've achieved our goal, ultimately it's a couple month investment to hopefully get us back into a healthy place. But nonetheless, no matter what we do here, if you don't change what you're putting into your body, whenever you eat, which is 3 to 5 times a day, typically, this is going to be a difficult one to control, even with a lot of supplements. And the thing I also talk about with patients, and I'll share with you, is when we use supplements, a supplement is meant to support something that we're already doing, right? It's supplementing. Right. But if you don't have basic healthy lifestyle habits, what are we supplementing, right? We're not doing much. We're not changing the foundational elements of what led us to this place right now. And so for you, stressful time, traveling to or, all over the place in terms of when you're sleeping, when you're awake. So right now, it makes sense that you're experiencing this metabolic stress. Hopefully some of these changes, diet, sleep, making sure you're drinking enough water, exercising regularly, in addition to some of these supplements, will help us get back into a good spot. And then hopefully we can then keep it from there without necessarily needing supplementation for a long period of time. Does that make sense?
It really does. Yeah. And while I have this pulled up, I'm kind of just reading through this, because a lot of this, just so you know, I just browsed through the results when they came in, but I wanted to really let this be like a raw moment of going over the results. And so as I'm looking through this, I notice here it says pharmaceutical products are only available to members of the Lifeforce Personalized Performance Program, which is $129 a month, and are contingent on blood test results and clinician video consult, which is what we're doing now.
Exactly. So
is that something where basically, like for the $129 a month, you pay for these supplements on top of that, or does the $129 a month give you what's needed based on your results?
So you pay for the supplements on top of that, but you do get a discount as a Lifeforce performance program member. The prescription meds, you need a prescription, you need to speak to it with a physician that's licensed in the state that you live. And then, you pay what the pharmacy essentially charges for those medications on top of that. So that's how that works.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. This is great. So we've gone over NMN, peak NMN. We've gone over metformin, specific for this situation, with this elevated, blood sugar result. So now what would be something else that you could maybe help me with?
I think the other big, there's two things. One, your cardiovascular risk profile, your heart health profile looks pretty good. I think there's a couple things that we can tweak there. One of those metrics is called APO, or apolipoprotein B. It's a risk factor for potential cardiovascular disease in the future. It's a metric that is modifiable, primarily associated with lifestyle change. So again, everything that we mentioned associated with helping to better control blood sugar, high quality, high fiber foods, healthy fats, healthy proteins, making sure you're getting good exercise. That's also going to help your cardiovascular disease risk profile and hopefully bring your apolipoprotein B metric, which was 134, down into what we would consider.
Where's that one at? Sorry, I just want to pull this up.
So we can look at it on a couple different locations. So if you want to pull up your blood test results,
where would that be?
So you should see a tab for labs.
Okay.
So on the go up. Yeah, scroll down. All right, so you're on your biomarkers. Scroll down. There should be another page here. So scroll up real quick.
There's my reports. There's profile.
Yeah, go to your reports. Okay, go back up. So go to your profile.
Profile.
And then scroll down. So look at my, click on that one real quick. Sorry. Scroll down. Click on read more. So if you scroll down, so this is your async report. So this is everything so this is everything that we're talking about. So this is like when I mentioned initially, there's like a lot of stuff going on. This is what most people look at and they're just like, holy cow, like this is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, this is what I browsed through, I think, initially.
Yeah. And so if you scroll up, you'll see under primary part number 1, priority 1, improving cardiovascular. Yep. Reducing key risk factors for cardiovascular disease. ApoB is kind of like that big chunk right there. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll edit this part out, but yeah. So I mean, if I was gonna focus on anything else, bringing that cardiovascular disease risk factor down in terms of your future potential for cardiovascular disease. Again, everything that we talked about in terms of improving your metabolic health for reducing your risk for diabetes should help your cardiovascular disease risk profile. So that's, again, eating healthier foods, high fiber concentration, minimizing processed foods, white rice, white bread, white pasta, processed foods, junk foods, things like that. That should be helpful in terms of minimizing your ApoB metric or apolipoprotein B. The other thing is, the more fiber you consume, healthy fats, healthy proteins, green leafy vegetables, that should help your cholesterol profile as well. And, when you look at a cholesterol profile, we typically talk about HDL and LDL. HDL we call good cholesterol. LDL was previously called bad cholesterol. The truth of the matter is, like, there's no good or bad cholesterol. They're all needed. What we see typically in the American population and now globally is elevations in LDL, which is called low density lipoprotein. And this is a problem, especially in the presence of inflammation or metabolic disease, which is diabetes, autoimmune conditions, obesity, anything that increases inflammation in the body, lack of sleep, too much alcohol intake, lack of exercise, because the inflammation proteins tend to interact with these LDL molecules, and your number is slightly high at 126. And when you have inflammation plus elevated LDL, that definitely increases your risk for atherosclerosis, which is essentially plaque buildup in cardiac vessels primarily. And when that occurs, if we get lack of blood flow to the heart muscle, then you have a greater risk for a cardiovascular event, which we commonly call, a heart attack. So I think for you, the lifestyle changes we discussed to help better control blood sugar should also help your cardiovascular disease risk profile. You're already on an omega supplement, which is great. Hopefully you're still on it. That's what you put on your intake. We also have a product called Peak Health Span which is designed to, again, help support cellular function, mitochondrial function, which is the energy producing unit of every single cell. And peak health span can also help us at a cellular level better utilize fats, help us reduce inflammation, help improve liver function, cardiovascular function, hopefully improve our cardiovascular profile in terms of cholesterol metrics, because we want to keep our HDL, which is the anti-inflammatory cardioprotective, quote unquote, good cholesterol, as high as possible. And yours was 61, so it's great. For men, we want that greater than 45. We just want to see that LDL metric drop down a little bit, especially considering your metabolic disease risk profile had you kind of in that pre-diabetic range.
Right. Before we carry on, I wanted to just highlight something you went over earlier, which I think is one of the things that sets this this Lifeforce program aside from everything else. What makes it different is that measurement of the ApoB, correct? Because
Right.
I know a lot of gut panel and blood panels that I've done in the past, they either don't put that in, or if they do, they don't really, spend much time on it. And, for all the things you just pointed out, I think that's really important to kind of highlight again, because this is one of those things that will tell us more about our longevity, right? Our lifespan. So I think that's great.
Yeah. And I don't want to miss the opportunity to appreciate the fact that, like, when we look at this report, we're breaking it down into sections, but at the end of the day, everything's integrated, everything's communicating and working together. So your heart and your pancreas, although they're not the same organ, a lot of the things that will impact one will impact the other. So
Right.
instead of treating us like a separated, isolated set of different organs and tissues and cells, we have to appreciate that part of the reason your lifestyle has led you to somewhat of an insulin resistant kind of pre-diabetic state is probably also contributing to the fact that your cholesterol profile could be a little bit better. And I suspect, correcting one will positively impact the other. And if you wanted to use the health span, peak health span plus peak NMN plus or minus metformin, I don't think that's a negative way to go. But ultimately, those should be assisting healthy daily lifestyle practices, eating high quality foods in an appropriate quantity, exercising, sleeping, things like that. Does that
Right.
make sense?
It really does. And what's interesting about what you said, I love to highlight this difference between sort of keeping things the way that they are and supplementing, right, in hopes that there's a change, or doing all of the lifestyle changes without the supplementation, or a combination of the two.
Exactly.
And I think this should allow people to kind of go, oh, okay, so if I really don't feel like I have the capacity to change, to make these lifestyle changes in my life, in my career, in various relationships, then okay, here's something that can augment, some supplementation that can augment my health and hopefully improve it. But if you're someone like me that knows, okay, I'm in probably one of the most stressful times of my life, like I'm curious, like what this would be like as soon as I finish this tour, I can get back to a more normal lifestyle, what that would be like, and then kind of retest. And this is the reason why I love this Lifeforce program, because this is not just a one-time, you're one and done, here's a bunch of supplements and see you, a few years from now. This is something I want to continue doing throughout the year, every 3 months or every 2 months or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the point, right? So, we can just sell supplements, like people do that, but if you don't change those foundational elements, hopefully the supplements work. And then also you have to appreciate you'll probably have to do it for the rest of your life, or until you forget, lose interest. And that's common. What we want to do is help you understand there's lifestyle components that you can and should change, and then we can provide high quality supplements to help support things along the way. Ultimately appreciating that we want to get you to a high quality of life, and then continue to have you check in, so that we can maintain that high quality of physiologic function.
Awesome. Yeah, I know one of the other things that was on here, just as I recall from the the suggestions early on when I browsed was the hormone health DHEA.
Yeah. So let me talk about that real quick. So guys, like testosterone's a hot topic these days, and and it needs to be, because we're seeing decreasing levels of testosterone production in males, late 20s through early 60s than we've seen ever in our recent history. And part of that's we're more sedentary, poor quality of nutrition, environmental factors that we haven't been exposed to up until recently, and it's impacting our physiology negatively, especially in terms of hormone production. So for you, your testosterone level was 582, which is average. For someone of your age, we want to keep it around 800 to 1200.
That has increased, by the way, because that used
Good.
to be in like the mid 300s, like kind of low to mid 300s, by the way.
Yeah, and your free testosterone level was 99. Again, your total test, we should probably double that. Your free testosterone, again, double that, around 150 to 190 is kind of the range that we want you to live in. And your DHEA level was 155. And so DHEA, if you follow in biochemistry the production of testosterone, you get DHEA, then you have androstenedione, which Mark McGuire got in trouble for taking back in the day, if you remember that, because it wasn't illegal then, but everyone's like, well, andro becomes test, so like not super savory in terms of what you're doing here, and now it's illegal for pro sports, but DHEA becomes androstenedione, which becomes testosterone. So for you, your testosterone levels were lower, they're getting better, which is great. Your DHEA level, which is a precursor which can help support testosterone production, again, less than optimal. So for someone of your age, and when we talk about hormone supplementation, fertility questions have to be considered. So for you, trying to get your testosterone levels up will, again, the lifestyle things that you can change, getting good quality sleep, right? Messing with your circadian rhythm is going to drop your testosterone levels. Carrying excess body fat, eating processed foods, things like that. Being sedentary, not getting in 150 plus minutes of activity in weekly with resistance training, all those things are going to drop your testosterone levels, as well as the DHEA component, which is if the precursor hormone is less than optimal, it's not unreasonable to believe that our testosterone levels will subsequently be less than optimal. So for you, from the hormone health standpoint, it's positive to hear that you're improving compared to where you were. I think if we, worked on your DHEA level, that would help not only support adrenal health, which is part of what DHEA does in terms of maintaining the ability to be resilient, adaptable, especially in your lifestyle where you're traveling and performing. Your adrenal health, your stress support needs to be definitely addressed, but also providing the necessary support to help promote healthy testosterone levels, which is what DHEA can do. And that's something that you can get from us at Lifeforce. And hopefully, if we can get your DHEA levels up to an optimal range around 400 to 500, we should then see a subsequent increase in testosterone. The one thing that I will share with you is, on this time that you're on tour and traveling, the physiologic stresses of changing your daily rhythm, sometimes being able to eat high quality food, sometimes not, exercise and being able to maintain that routine, that's a significant stress that's going to kind of suppress our ability to produce healthy testosterone levels. So this one is pretty important in terms of giving your body the best opportunity to maintain healthy test levels until you exit this stressful period of your time, which then hopefully you will flourish and thrive. But doing what we can while you are traveling and on tour to help at least maintain where you're at should definitely be a high priority.
I love it. This is great. This is very, very helpful.
Yeah. So for me, focusing on your hemoglobin A1C, focusing on helping minimize your cardiovascular disease risk factors, which again, coordinates with your metabolic disease risk factor, your hemoglobin A1C, and then supporting your hormone health. I think those are three reasonable things that we can address over the next few months. and then reassess, see where we're at, what's working, what's not, what may need to be manipulated. And then we can add, new things in for the following 3 months.
I absolutely love it. Yeah, this is very helpful, and I hope that anyone listening to this or watching this, I hope they got something out of this. And clearly, we're going over my results, and I'm certain that most of the people tuning in right now probably have different questions or different concerns, and certainly have different biomarker results. So just use this as a way to kind of think, what do I get whenever I go through a blood panel or a testing panel with Lifeforce? You get the same thing, more specific to you. So I think this is something that we all look for, because in the past, we've gotten all these different testings, whether it be saliva tests, gut tests, stool samples, blood tests, urine tests, but then you're left with like all of this information to try to sift through and figure out on your own on what to do with it. Or you go to, just your regular doctor who's probably like, you're fine, come back, next year and everything, we'll test everything again. Whereas right now, with what I'm doing with Dr. Green and everyone at Lifeforce, is we're really trying to hone in on these small incremental changes that can then give you a huge benefit for your total health and wellness, which is ultimately what we're trying to do. So this is really, really helpful. Is there anything else that you feel like is important to share so that we can get the most out of this?
I think this is going to be the most beneficial place to start. And so what I'll do is I'll put a note together with all the recommendations, everything we talked about. You'll be able to access that. And then also through your portal, you'll be able to not only get the peak NMN, peak health span, and if you wanted to try the metformin, you can order that through your portal. And then a performance guide will follow up with you, and he'll take some of my notes in terms of things that I think you guys can do together, nutrition wise, maybe it's a routine and lifestyle while you're on the road, things to make sure you're paying attention to in terms of sleep, movement, hydration. So they'll follow up after this call. And then in 3 months, we'll test everything again and see where we did well and where we did not. And then, make some adjustments for the next quarter.
This is great. I love it. All right.
All righty, sir.
Well, thank you for your time. I very much appreciate it. How can, is there a way that we should direct people to you, or is this kind of, how do we go about that?
At Lifeforce, just directing people towards Lifeforce is going to be the best. If people have specific questions for me, just health related, I'm happy to address what I can. I'm at on Instagram at Dr._Green with an E at the end, GREENE_DO. So Dr._Green_DO. And, I'm happy to answer any questions they may have, but ultimately, Lifeforce is going to be the most comprehensive way to do this, whether it's me or any of our other excellent physicians. I think we're making a lot of impact pretty quickly, and I hope to see that grow.
Awesome. All right. Well, I definitely plan on taking all your advice, and I'll kind of follow up with a few other things. I'm going to get on to ordering these supplements, and hopefully anybody watching this can see these improvements as we go. So I think this will be fun to track.
Amazing. All right, man. Have a good day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seatbelts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen. Better come give us a minute or two. Open the box up, we giving you tools. Giving your engine the fuel that it needs. Breathing into it, it's autoimmune. Make a connection, we're stronger in two. Making us one of a kind of a few. Work on the mind, but show me your moves. If you do what you say, you know what to do. Yeah.
Simply walk the talk.